The Things We All Carry is a podcast about first responders and their stories surrounding trauma on the job. The intention of this podcast is to raise awareness and share meaningful conversation around a subject often viewed as taboo or simply ignored. Be aware this content may be graphic and it is real. It may not be suitable for children or adults triggered by this subject. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back and I'm here. I'm going to release part 3 with Jim. And Jim is out of Ohio. Jim is a retired firefighter. He's retired through disability. And I wish all states had this. There comes a time where you experience enough stuff and you see enough shit and it weighs on you and you just don't want to get back into it, or you can't get back into it, or, for very valid and real reasons. And in some places, we're forcing people to choose between a livelihood and mental health. And that doesn't make sense to me. Why are we making people choose? It's very easy to see if someone is suffering or somebody has seen or done enough that in some way we need to figure out a way to protect them from future harm, and also make sure that they're kind of set up to be successful and thrive outside of the fire service or outside of law enforcement or outside of the military. And this is something I've said for a while now. This job isn't necessarily designed for all of us to do 20 to 30 years. I don't think any of us should do 30 years. I think that's just ridiculous. I think that there's so much more to see, do, and experience outside of any career that 30 years just seems ridiculous to me. But that being said, I don't think these jobs specifically are designed to thrive long term. Yes, they're the outliers that can do it for however long, and kudos to them. I don't think that should be the norm. I think that we need to investigate a new form or a new way of approaching this retirement system, so mid-career people aren't panicked when they figure out that they're burned out, they're stressed, they're anxious, they're whatever it is, whatever the diagnosis they're experiencing. When they discover that it's time to go, they should not be put in a place where they're forced to decide, am I throwing away 10, 11, 12 years of my life? Or am I going to get something out of it so that I can thrive and be successful post-career, post-fire service career, post-law enforcement career? The military does this really well. They don't make you feel like you're throwing your time away because you've earned all kinds of experience. Now, you're not getting a pension through the military, and I think that's something that can be looked at as well. But, there has to be some sort of not just this age limit or time limit. And I think there needs to be a rethinking of how we do this. And I'm not sure what it is. I honestly am not sure what it is. It's something that's been in my head for a while, and it's something that I haven't been able to flesh out for myself, let alone share with anybody. And some people are out there going, well, you're just being stupid now. But I don't think we are. I don't think I am. I think there's a way to do this where you don't feel like you're throwing away years of your life that you spent with a career such as, like I said, law enforcement, military, fire, whatever it is. I think that when we figure out that we're done with this job and that our brains are done with it and that our emotional health and mental health is done with it, we need to be able to step aside at peace and not just survive, but thrive. It's just something I've been playing with, and maybe if you have more ideas about it, you can hit me up and we can talk about it, because I would love to kind of figure out a way to do that is beneficial to both the firefighters and the municipalities that they work for. Part 3 with Jim goes into a very interesting thing. He had a brain scan done, and it showed that his brain, it's through an EEG, and it showed that his brain is like constant fight or flight. And I think that if we had this available to most firefighters or most cops or most veterans, we would find out that we're all pretty much fight or flight, unless you've already done something to help correct that. And this goes along the conversation I had with Alexander Jabbar and the future episode that I had with Dr. Brooke Bartlett. And it's talking about the physical damage to a brain caused by trauma. And Jim's EEG and this scan is the literal sense of that. It shows the physical damage done to his brain. And so he is going through basically some brain games to retrain his brain and to open up neural pathways and to increase that neuroplasticity that we like to talk about. And it's a fascinating idea, and how it's done is pretty fascinating. He gets into the kind of the nitty gritty about it and how it's done, how long it's going to take, and then we make a deal. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about it after he finishes his treatment, so we can get to the bottom of, hey, did this help? What are the physical changes? What are the emotional changes? And I think one of the most telling things he says in this episode is that he had his doctor explain the results, not just to him, but to his wife and to his mother. And that way they heard what was going on. They heard that this isn't him just being angry to be angry. This is him unable to control these emotions. And he's at the jumping off spot. And then any little thing is not something he can go, oh, I choose to be angry. It's just that the anger just comes and he doesn't know what to do with it. And to have a doctor tell him and tell his loved ones that changes how you approach. And I think that is a very powerful thing. I think it's very powerful to have that on board and go, okay, so now we know what we're dealing with. Now we know we're getting a fix. Let's get after it. Getting after it is the only way to fix it. And this is what Jim's doing right now. Kudos to him. This is a fascinating end to the podcast. And I really did. I enjoyed this one. And I could talk to this gentleman, every week, every day, because I think he's a fascinating human. I think like I said in episode 1, I think his humor is hilarious and he's engaging. So you guys sit back and again enjoy episode 120. Well, this is 126 of the Things We All Carry with Jim from Ohio. And if you're lucky, maybe he will send you a picture of Uranus as well. Peace. So we'll focus back. You leave center back since you cut. They're not going to do it. They hide you away, quote unquote, for a while, and you file for your disability. And when does that come through?
So my last day of work was January 10th. January 10th or 11th. I think 11th actually. And I was informed of my pension's ruling on June 21st. I ran out of time mid-May, somewhere around mid-May. So I went about a month or so without getting any pay. And it's funny. I did get a random out of nowhere check from the city after the union contract was signed, and it was for 31 cents. So I
framed it, right?
I framed that son of a bitch. It's upstairs, and I actually have a little hammer on it that says, I said, in the case of emergency, break glass. Yeah, so I got a 31-cent check from them.
That's funny.
Their books are still off of that, which is funny to me.
So you dropped this. When did the book come out? Overcoming Tuesday. When did it release? Because I know you went on a flurry of interviews at that time.
May 1st.
Okay.
Is when it came out. We started working on it mid-August, and I would say we had kind of the first rough draft done end of October. And so really throughout the winter months, we put the finishing touches on it and put it together. And then, May 1st.
And like I said, you did a number of interviews. You've done podcasts about it, and I think you did a live with our friend there, TJ, on Keep the Promise podcast, and I kind of tried to snipe you there. And he asked for any questions, and I think my question was, well, ask him when he's coming on my show, and here we are now. But you're going to come on earlier, but you had developments from the point you released the book to today, which are pretty fascinating.
Yes. So I said a little bit ago, I said, I wrote a book doesn't mean I'm fixed. Doesn't mean I'm good. Still a work in progress. And so I have still been having these anger issues. And here's the deal, like, I don't have anything to be angry about. I'm pretty good, you know? I'm grateful, I'm fortunate. Yeah, I went through a lot of shit, but I came out on the other side. But, I mean, this anger was just, it comes there's no notice. It Here it comes. And, so I talked to my clinician about it, and she asked me, um, "Did you ever have any concussions?" And I said, "Yeah, I know I had a couple when I was a kid riding a bike, and I'm sure
Mhm.
positive I had a few playing football because I would line up in football against a guy who ended up playing for Michigan State, as a guard. Um, so he whipped my ass every day. Um, and she said, "Well, let's get a brain scan. Let's see what's going on in there." I said, "Okay, hell yeah, let's do this." So, because that's the thing. I think this is important. If there's one thing about me, it's been that I'm persistent. Yeah, I don't give up. Like I just keep trying to figure out the answers, and that really showed up here. So I have this brain scan as the EEG, and she tells me, and not only does she tell me, this is so important. She tells my wife, she tells my mother, who, I mean, both of them are at their wits' end because they're dealing with this volatile firecracker, and they're sick of it. Like, they've been patient as can be with me, but, like, there gets a point, right? And, what was found in this brain scan was I didn't have any brain damage. I didn't have any, the concussions didn't show up, but what did show up was that I was in fight or flight at all times. Like, still to this day, I haven't ran a call in 2 years, and I am still to this day, like, hyper vigilant as can be.
Right.
What the other thing that she said, this was the big thing again, was that I operate out of my subconscious. And in other words, I don't have a filter, no filter. I get something agitates me, something challenges me, and I'm already ready to go. And that's the problem. She told them, she said, "It's not him's fault. He can't control this. He can't control what he says, how he says it. Like, he doesn't have the lead time to actually make a formal decision on
Right.
if how I want to react or not." And so she, for the first time, somebody's telling my family, like, "Give Jim grace. It's not his fault." That was huge, right? Just wow. And then she followed up with the other thing that's really important is, "I think I could help him."
Mm.
So it's like, hell yeah. And I could tell you, just since she said that to my family, they've been more understanding, and they have gone about things with me differently.
Right.
Like, they don't poke me anymore or keep at me. Like, now they're aware of, like, why I get triggered, and, like, what to do to try to avoid that from happening, you know? And so the answer, though, to all this stuff was neurofeedback. And I just had my session yesterday, and as soon as we're done, I get to have my second one. And, I wasn't really, I heard of neurofeedback. I wasn't really that familiar, though, with it. And what it is doing is it's trying to retrain your brain and ultimately give it that opportunity to have that pause, to make a decision instead of just reacting. Like, I'm not doing the job anymore. I don't need to be in
Right.
this hypervigilant state at all times. Like, that can go away, but we need to train my brain for that to go away. So the first session I did was yesterday, and I'm gonna try to describe it to your listeners best I can, and they can when I say this, they're gonna visualize this.
Right.
So picture a game of Pac-Man. All right, we're all there. You know, Pac-Man's running around. He's eating all the pellets. Could be Miss Pac-Man. Could be Baby Pac-Man. I don't care. There's no ghost running or anything, but like I'm playing this game, but I don't have a joystick. I don't have a controller. I've got electrodes hooked to my head and one on my ear, and I am controlling this thing with my mind.
Hmm.
It was a very like Professor X Cerebro kind of shit that I was doing. And it's playing these mind games. And I have to do this for 3 times a week for 2 to 6 months. And they feel like she feels like with this I don't want to say algorithm. I forget what she calls it, but she basically has a template for me and what I need to work on and do.
So
So
the way I'm gonna my lay person, obviously, brain that knows enough to ask questions but doesn't know anything. I'm gonna imagine this as you have an objective that you're trying to accomplish with your brain, and your how are you seeing it? Is it on a screen in front of you, or what
it's
is?
on computers.
And
Yeah.
so it actually has like a game that when you think turn left, it turns left.
Yes.
It's fascinating.
It's pretty cool. Like it was trippy. Uh it took me a minute to get the hang of it, but like sure shit, I'm going down, go right, go up, go faster, you little shit. Like
Yeah.
and it would function.
And
Like that's good Pac-Man. Good Pac.
and I guess it's all about where she places the electrodes to which part of the brain she's activating and stimulating and manipulating.
Exactly. So initially that first Pac-Man thing, it was kind of on the sides of
Mhm.
my forehead. And then for the second game we played, which was not Pac-Man, it was basically it's you ever go to like you go to a ball game and on the big screen they have a picture, but it's hidden and they pull out little frames of it here and there and you're
Right.
trying to guess what it is as it
Yeah.
goes.
Right.
So the second game was like that, but you're controlling like the frames with your mind. But I had moved the electrodes towards the frontal lobe, I guess, area of my forehead. So yeah, so it does hit different parts of the brain, and she's able to tell like exactly like if I'm in the right spot or not, and she's doing all this stuff remotely, which is
Right.
cool, you know.
And so you
So
say
it's
you're gonna do
uh,
this 3 times a week for 2 to 6 months.
yes,
And how long is each session?
uh, about I mean doing the games is about 30 minutes, but and it took longer, yeah, because yesterday was the first time doing it and this is setting it up. So I imagine it's probably gonna be about 40 minutes.
Okay.
To just between setup and everything, like, making sure that the sensors are, like, where they need to be, like, probably a little bit of time, but, yeah, it's not that long in a day.
It's interesting that this comes now. It's, and you know Stephanie White, she and I had a conversation one day about, why are firefighters still killing themselves even if we know everything that about mental health? And we had some kind of pedantic answers, and she was like, "No, no, no, but why? Why is it still there?" And so then I started asking questions about the brain, and I reached out to somebody about the brain, and what we talked about was the ski ruts in the brain and how your thinking gets stuck in these ruts. And that's where obviously your brain is. You're in a rut with your brain. So that's why you're on that fight or flight all the time. And so this game is manipulating your brain to open some pathways so you can the brain can start to realize, oh, I don't have to react like that. I can do this as well, or this is the better option. And so what you're doing is you're literally just retraining and making multiple routes to go instead of the one forward.
That's right. That's right, and, the interesting thing is, like, I mean, it's very clear, like, well, that's not clear. Like, what I wish would have happened would I mean, it would be so cool if I would have been able to do this EEG before I started the job.
Oh, yeah.
Have that baseline and then
Yeah.
compare it, because that's the thing, like, I'm pretty sure it's pretty obvious that the job has changed me,
Yeah.
and really not for the better, but, because I didn't have that baseline, you can just assume you really
Right.
don't know, but, like, to me, this just shows you, like, this I mean, it philosophically, I
You
can't
got
even
it.
say it, changes changes our brain,
Yeah.
like, that is, and that's the thing, like, I talked to I don't know if you know her, I talked before I talked to you earlier today, I talked to Dr. Sarah Janke.
No.
It was an old friend of mine, she does a ton of research, she's awesome, and I'm telling her all this stuff, and I'm just like, I'm getting answers because I'm stubborn and I'm persistent.
Right.
That's the only way, like, the fact that I was continuing to be open and honest and sharing stuff and continuing to look for, um, initiatives that actually can help, or interventions, I guess. How many of us just give up? And, I'm thinking about how many of us are out there that have anger issues as well and don't have a good clinician that can say, "Hey, get an EEG," or even have the funds. That's the other thing. Like,
Yeah.
this shit isn't covered by insurance. I'm
No,
paying
that's the
out of
massive
pocket,
part. Right.
and it's. I mean, I'm doing it, even though it sucks and I don't want it. I'm doing it because, like, of the possibility of peace and finally breaking these chains that I've been in. But um, again, I'm getting this help because because it is not common knowledge. This isn't out there. There was so much that she was able to tell from this brain scan. I mean, I spent an hour with her doing it, and there's no way that, like, she would pick up stuff at just spending an hour with me. But she
Right.
was telling me stuff from that scan, like, that was so true. So it's, I'd love, I'm glad to be talking about this here, but I want to continue talking about it. I want people to know that this is an option. And and I've just had this one session of neurofeedback, but, like, if that works too, like, I want to shout from mountains about it. Like, if it
Yeah.
actually can help.
And you and I talked about that is, we'll record today. And then once you're done with it and you've got you go from that baseline, you go through your therapies and then you're going to scan again. Correct.
Yes.
And so then we talked about, all right, so then we need to set up a time to talk after that as well. So we can revisit what it has actually done for you.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, I think you're saying you're still in this fight or flight, and I don't think people can appreciate how much we are in fight or flight from the job. And you said it'd been 2 years since you've run a call, which is a pretty good chunk of time. And here I am. It's been a few months. I left the job on February 29th was the last time I ran a call. And last Friday I went to a concert in Richmond, and we were in this crowd, and it was sparsely populated at first, and then obviously the main act came on, and these basically high school college kids just flooded in around us, and I don't remember the show after that because I was just on hyper alert as to what they were doing and whether they were in my space and what I had to do if they did get in my space and what I didn't do there. And this is the whole don't practice what I preach part was I didn't recognize it at first. And I didn't just say, hey, I need to step back there. I need to go back where there's not a huge crowd right now. For me to enjoy any music right now, I have to leave this area. And I didn't do that. I stayed there on like a hyper vigilant state. And I just monitored what they were doing and I wasted
That's
it. I wasted
and
it.
you're yeah. Yeah, you're not enjoying the show then.
Right. Hey guys, quick break right here just to check in and thank each of you for listening to the show. Your support has been paramount, and I appreciate all of you. I have one request, though. I need you to share the show with everyone you know. Help me get the word out and spread these stories as far and as wide as we can. While you're at it, please leave a review of the show wherever you happen to listen. Feel free to reach out to me at any time to share your story, to talk, or to pass on suggestions. Let's get on with the rest of the show.
I
Yeah.
went to, I'll give you, and this was so I was aware of this stuff now. Like, I wasn't 2 weeks ago, but I since that time, I've been more aware of this stuff. I went to it was my first time ever, and again, everybody was should be able to if they've been there, they're gonna visualize this too. I went to my very first ever Buc-ee's on the way to my trip,
Right.
and I went there during lunch, and it was chaos.
It's overwhelming. I haven't been there and I can tell you it's overwhelming.
It was utter chaos, and driving up to that place, I'm fine, I'm good. I get in there, and it's like I felt like I was at war.
Hmm.
I'm not exaggerating, like, it was so overwhelming,
Yeah.
and, I turned into an asshole, and as soon as I got out of there and got in the car, it was like that flip switched again, went back normal.
Yeah.
And it was like that getting on the boat, getting off the boat. Like I'm just now, I guess, more aware of that stuff. But as far as concerts going, and I could do this now. You can do this now. It wasn't something that we could do on the job, but like take a gummy
Yeah.
and it chills me out and
Yeah.
allows me to not be that hyper vigilant guy and actually enjoy the show and watch it and be in peace. I've had to figure that out too. So, but that's right now. I'd love to be in a place to where I don't have to do that.
Right.
But right now, if I know I'm going into a situation, that's what I'm doing.
Well, and listen, all openness and honesty to for the Superfest that I was there in your home state, a couple of weeks ago. I microdosed. I had to. I knew that was what I needed to do. I needed to not focus on the crowd around me. So yeah, and so a little microdose of psilocybin helped me. It helps me wonders. And I just happen to live in an area where I can get it because it's decriminalized in DC. So, it's
Okay.
it's just available, it's like a dispensary, you just go up there and you can get what you need. But, I extol the virtues of that and it's not for everybody, but that's what works for me, and it's a hell of a lot better than alcohol because alcohol just turns me angry if in that situation.
Yeah. So, um, that was kind of next on my agenda actually. Whether to do that or do ketamine or something like that. Like, uh, again, because I feel like my back's against a corner. Like I need to
Yeah.
do something. Like what I'm doing isn't working. So I'm trying this neurofeedback and hopefully that takes. If not, maybe I hang out in DC with you.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
One thing I wanna touch on real quick, and I think this is the point in the book where I th it jumped out to me the most, and I know I texted this to you. You were at a conference, and you were talking to a clinician or a presenter, and I think it was you and your friend. I forget. I don't have it pulled up right in front of me, but the the topic of suicide was on the table, and you or he said, "Oh, doesn't everybody think of suicide?" And she said, "No, I we don't. I don't think of it's not something that's ever come to mind to me." And
Yeah.
and you guys were like, "What?" And you didn't understand that, and she didn't understand you because it is something that is on our minds. And
Yeah.
and I put the book down and I texted you immediately and I said, "Yeah, no, this is true. It's normal to us.
Yes.
Where in the general population, it's not normal to think about it.
Yes.
And
And
it's
that it
just
is
it's an
a
oddly
weird
accepted
dynamic.
thing.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's a weird dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I imagine if you asked PD the same thing,
Hmm.
if they were honest, which a lot of them aren't, and I get it because I mean, that's a whole beast trying to deal with their mental health because they're afraid because they're carrying guns. So,
Right. Exactly.
but I think they would say the same thing too if they're honest. Yeah, I mean, I don't, and I realize now, and I had to think about this. Like, it was one thing for me to have the voices. The voices is what really, when it was like really at my worst, like this is bad. When I'm having discussions with myself about offing myself, like I'm not in a good place. But I
Right.
realized even before that, even before the voices, I would daydream and it would I like and it sounds so fucked up now I think about it. Like I was in charge of our funerals.
Hmm.
Line of duty funerals, regular funerals, whatever it may be. I played a part in organizing it. And I almost feel like the reason I was so good at that is because I pictured my funeral so many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
That's
it's that's I don't think I've ever even said that before, but I realized that I don't know why. And so it was even another weird dynamic of here it's my role to try to keep everybody alive, but yet I'm also the one that when
yeah.
they die, I handle that too.
Yeah. That. It's so many avenues there. Well, let's do this. Let's get you through your neurofeedback path, I guess we could say it, your course of treatments, and find a time once you go through it and get some results, and then we can come back together and talk about what that did for you.
I think that's awesome. I love that idea. Um, it'd be even oh man, I don't know if you'd be up for this, but what would be cool is to get Steph on here who's doing all the stuff with me
Hmm.
and have her even explain like, "Hey, this was Jim's thing here, and then after this, this is it
I'm
now."
I'm all in on it. If she's willing to do something like that, we can work something
Oh,
out.
she's super. She's cool, and I've already told her like, "Hey, you you're a big chapter of my next book." Like, I already told her that.
Well, I
Yeah.
know you're kind of on a hard out now, and so let's do this. Let's get the last two questions out of the way so we can wrap this up, and you can go about and get done what you need to get done
Play
today.
some play some more Pac-Man.
Play some more Pac-Man. So, when is the last time you felt a sense of awe? You experienced something where it just stopped you in your tracks, and one of the best ways I heard it explained was I had a woman, Alex, emergency resilience. She was on, and she said it. She knew it was a moment of awe for her because she was a photographer and she couldn't take a picture of it.
You talking about, Alexandra Jabbar?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. She's cool as could be.
yeah. Brilliant woman.
Uh, yes. A moment of awe. Ah, that's a hell of a question. I mean, are we talking about kinda like signs or just
Anything
things?
you would describe as awe for you.
I'm gonna this is fucked up, but I'm gonna tell you the story because it's
Okay.
hilarious and it just happened, so it's really fresh in my mind. So I told you about gummies, right?
Hmm.
And I only use it's not like I'm not walking around high every day or yeah, I use them for sleep and I use them if I'm going out in big public places. And but I haven't been able to sleep without them. And so on the cruise ship, they're like, it's a big like, hey, no, we know it's legal there, but it's not legal here.
Right.
Don't bring that shit on. We're gonna be checking. And I'm like, I'm gonna gamble it. I'm gonna bring some gummies because I want to be able to sleep. And
Right.
man, I had them. I took them out of the bag, put them in a medicine thing. I put them in my book bag. I carried them in my book bag, and I put them in my luggage or in my book bag. And we put all these book bags in a row when we're getting ready to go through security to get on the big boat, and then pops in a I'm like, I'm fucked. Like, shit. And this dog is going bag by bag, sniffing it.
Yeah.
And just as it gets to me, this like two people over from me, they have a stroller. I have a kid in a stroller, but they also have like bags on the back of the stroller.
Right.
And it like and it fell backwards. Like, the kid
Right.
was okay and everything, but it fell backwards, and I made a big scene, and right as that dog's coming to my bag, like, it gets, you know, that happens, and the handler and the dog goes over to that person and, like, skips my bag. That was my moment of awe, my moment of, like, "Thank you, God, I guess." Like, I think that's it. Didn't know you wanted me to do drugs, but, like, thank you.
Or did you, let's just be honest, did you just reach out and tip it back a little bit, give it a little bit of help
No. No. No, and I was like, "I'm fucked, I'm so fucked, I'm fucked."
That's funny.
And then that happened, and I was like, "Okay, well, thank you."
What about a book, sir? What's a book you wanna recommend other than Overcoming Tuesday?
We talked about music earlier, a lot, um, and I've read and I know you have too, there's so many of us that write books, whether it's Travis Howes or Pat Kenny, like, all these fire-related books, and they're all great, but I do like getting my mind out of the fire
Mhm.
service and into
Oh, yeah.
the regular world. So, I really enjoyed Dave Grohl's book, Storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
I
I
mean, it's just him telling, the autobiography, just telling stories. And I mean, the guy's done so much, whether it's Nirvana, starting to Foo, I mean, all that kind of stuff.
I,
I
um, I
really enjoy that.
I've said it before and I'll say it, I'll stand by it. I think Dave Grohl is the most influential musician of our generation.
I agree.
He people do not realize how involved he is in the overall music scene, and the fact that he has spanned the amount of time he has spanned with very influential bands.
Yes.
I mean, he has done so much more than you realize, and he is one of the most talented human beings on earth.
He's just a humble dude.
And he's
Yeah.
local. He's a local kid to us.
Virginia,
Yeah,
right?
his mom's a school teacher still
Yeah.
in Fairfax County.
Oh, I think he actually was born in Ohio, so I
Oh,
got
was
that
he?
going for me too.
He
Yeah,
grew up in Fairfax area, so I knew that. So,
yeah.
there you go, there's another connection there.
But, oh, just I mean, yeah, the drumming, the guitar, the singing, um, not just the bands he's been, but then all the other people that
Yep.
he's played for, whether it's, I actually saw them Crooked Vultures, which was
Oh, yeah?
cool.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then Queen of the Stone Age,
Yep.
he drummed on Tenacious D's first album, like,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
a lot.
So I really I dug his book. Um, I got that for a birthday present. That was pretty cool.
So, along those lines, and this is a book that a lot of people kind of looked at and went, I don't know about it." But if you want to check out a book that's just fascinating in from a Hollywood standpoint, read McConaughey's book, Green Lights. It's fascinating. This guy has a philosophy in life, and it has taken him where it's taken him, and it's a fun, insightful book to read.
All right, all right, all right.
Exactly. Well, with that end, let's wrap this up so you can go get you can go put your quarters on the table so you got next play on Pac-Man.
Right.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Stay in touch. Let me know how things are going, and let's set up a time to do that next one.
Sounds great. Yeah,
All right,
thanks so
and,
much for having me on.
Anytime you want to send random pictures of Uranus to people, go for it.
I will.
All right, my friend. We are out. Go enjoy your day.
All right, take care.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Things We All Carry. Head over to the website, thethingsweallcarry.com for show notes, resources, and to sign up for the newsletter. Until next week, take care of yourselves and remember to check in on each other.